Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Mukhtar Kasim. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and StarTimes channel 276. We begin talking election matters where Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission INEC, Professor Joash Amopitan, has urged security agencies to be alert to ballot snatchers, vote buyers and other electoral law offenders and violators ahead of the Federal Capital Territory FCT Area Council elections and forthcoming polls across the country. Amopitan gave the charge in Abuja at the first regular meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. Sadia Yakubu has more details.
Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission INEC Professor Joash Amopitan urged security agencies to ensure strict enforcement of the law, prevent the misuse of thugs, curb vote buying, as well as guarantee the safety of voters and election personnel on election day. He added that effective enforcement and swift response is critical in safeguarding the electoral process.
As campaigns draw to a close on Thursday, 19 February 2026, we look to the security agencies to ensure strict enforcement of the law, prevent misuse of thugs, prevent the use of thugs, curb vote buying, and guarantee the safety of voters.
Representing the National Security Advisor and ICCES co-chair Hassan Abdullahi says the security agencies is mobilizing resources and implementing measures to prevent any actions that could disrupt the electoral process. He noted that adequate security personnel will be deployed to police stations and high-risk electoral wards in order to restrain political thugs before, during and after the elections.
The Nigerian Police Force, designated as the lead agency for election security, in collaboration with other security and law enforcement agencies, is actively mobilizing resources and implementing measures to prevent any action that could disrupt the electoral process.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, who was represented by the Anambra State Commissioner of Police, Abayomi Shogule, reiterated the police commitment to provide adequate security during and after the election.
The Nigerian Police Force will continue to deploy massively for all elections across the country, and the purpose of this is to ensure that elections are violence-free and peaceful.
INEC and security agencies are sending a strong warning to anyone planning to disrupt the polls. Electoral laws will be enforced and offenders will be held accountable. With heightened security measures in place, authorities are vowing a safe, credible and transparent voting process. From Abuja, Sadia Yakubu for Global Television.
Let's now head to the National Assembly, where the Senate Minority Caucus has clarified that the Senate did not reject the electronic transmission of election results before the leadership passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, contrary to widespread media reports. The clarification came barely 24 hours after the upper chamber came under fire on Wednesday, following reports that lawmakers rejected proposals for the electronic transmission of election results and a move on the 10-year ban on vote buyers and other electoral offenders. Shortly after the report went viral, Senate President Godswill Akpabio dismissed the claims as misleading. Akpabio also maintained that lawmakers retained electronic transmission as provided under the 2022 Electoral Act, a distinction he said was necessary to avoid legal and operational ambiguities. President Bola Tinubu has met with key stakeholders of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, at the Presidential Villa in Abuja to review preparations for the party's forthcoming convention and congresses. Speaking after the meeting, APC National Chairman Professor Nintawe Yilwada described the engagement as a brief but productive session focused on aligning the party's preparations and ensuring cohesion among all arms of government. According to him, the discussions centered on strengthening synergy between the national leadership, subnational government, the National Assembly, and party structure ahead of the convention and congresses. The meeting brought together members of the APC's national leadership, governors, and the party's caucus in the National Assembly. In the meantime, the All Progressive Congress APC has replaced Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma with former Katsina State Governor Aminu Bello Masari as chairman of the National Convention Central Coordinating Committee ahead of the party's March 27 and 28, 2026 convention. This was contained in a statement signed by the National Secretary of the APC, Surajuddin Basiru, and posted on the party's official X page. Uzodinma, who was earlier named chairman of the committee, has now been reassigned as treasurer following a fresh reconstitution approved by the party's leadership. Now, a new chapter in policing begins in Imo State as new Commissioner of Police, Audu Boso, officially assumes duty after taking over from Aboki Enjuma, vowing to deepen community partnership, enforce discipline within the force, and protect lives and properties across the state. Our correspondent, Amarachi Ibe, reports.
At the Imo State Police Command Headquarters in Owerri, the mantle of leadership formally changed hands as CP Audu Garba Bose takes over as the 42nd Commissioner of Police in the state, addressing officers and stakeholders at a brief assumption of office ceremony. The new police chief expresses appreciation to the Inspector General of Police for the confidence reposed in him to oversee security operations in Imo State. He also acknowledges the Police Service Commission for the appointment and commends his predecessor for laying a foundation upon which improved security architecture can be built. CP Bose assures residents that the protection of lives and properties remains non-negotiable, stressing that effective policing can only thrive through trust, cooperation, and active community engagement.
The safety and security of Imolites remain my foremost priority. I call on security agencies, stakeholders, and all other Imolites to work together in tackling crimes and social vices. My administration will be guided by community-based policing, intelligence-led operations, and a people-friendly approach, ensuring that all actions strictly adhere to the rules of law and respect to human rights.
The Commissioner calls on traditional rulers, community leaders, youth groups, and sister security agencies to work closely with the police in confronting crime and other security vices threatening public peace. He also charges area commanders, divisional police officers, and tactical units to remain professional, responsive, and citizen-focused in discharge of their duties, warning that corruption and misconduct will attract decisive sanctions.
I also want to make it clear that this administration will not tolerate corruption, high-handedness, incivility to public, any form of professional misconduct. Officers are expected to uphold the highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and accountability. I assure the public of my unwavering commitment to protecting lives and property, maintaining peace, and fostering people-friendly, law-abiding policing culture across Imo State.
As the new police leadership settles in, expectations remain high across Imo State for improved security and renewed commitment to public service, with authorities emphasizing that lasting peace will depend on strong collaboration between the police and the people. From Owerri, I'm Amarachi Ibe, reporting for Global TV News.
Still talking security, the Nigerian Customs Service has stepped up efforts to strengthen regional trade, secure transit cargo, and deepen cross-border security cooperation with neighboring countries, particularly the Republic of Niger, as both nations move to tackle trade bottlenecks and shared security threats. The Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, stated this in Abuja during a high-level bilateral meeting between the Nigeria Customs Service and the Niger Republic Customs Administration, led by its Director General Muhammadu Yakuba. Kikelomo Okere has details.
The meeting focused on improving the movement of transit goods bound for Niger through Nigeria, enhancing intelligence and information sharing, reducing delays along major trade corridors, and strengthening security cooperation across shared borders. Comptroller General of Customs Adewale Adeniyi says Nigeria remains committed to facilitating trade for landlocked neighbors, stressing that regional trade, security and stability are closely linked.
Is dedicated to doing everything possible to expedite clearance process and eliminate these complaints, provided that they do not compromise our national security and interests.
The custom boss also warned against the diversion of transit goods, saying strict sanction will be applied for operators who violate transit regulations, as such actions undermine trust and create non-tariff barriers to trade.
Putting in place very stiff penalties, very stiff sanctions and punishments for economic operators who divert goods that are in transit, that are meant for these landlocked countries, so that it will serve as deterrence to others.
The Director General of the Niger Republic Customs described the engagement as a working visit aimed at addressing pressing challenges, including prolonged blockage of transit trucks and rising security concern in the region. He noted that Niger Republic has intensified its counter-terrorism effort through coordinated security operations and the deployment of scanners to inspect all incoming cargoes.
Issues. He highlighted the challenges confronting the two customs administrations and the two countries of Nigeria and Niger in the area of terrorism and banditry. Believing that this forum will give the two custom administrations the opportunity to find lasting solutions to these challenges.
Also speaking, the National Coordinator, National Counter-Terrorism Center, Major General Garba Laka reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to joint security action with Niger, describing insecurity in the Sahel as a shared threat that demands sustained cooperation.
For these agreements on a bilateral basis to be reactivated, if we want this security situation to be addressed.
The engagement marks a renewed push by Nigeria and Niger to strengthen trade facilitation, enhance border security, and deepen regional cooperation for mutual economic and security benefits. Kike Lomo Okere, Global Television News.
83 worshippers abducted from Kurmin Wali community in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State have regained their freedom 18 days after they were kidnapped by bandits during a church service on January 18. The victims were received by Governor Ubasani at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim House in Kaduna. Zara Unasir has details.
Receiving the worshippers alongside heads of security agencies, top Kaduna State government officials, and community leaders, the governor described the occasion as a day of joy for the state. He said the safe return of all the abducted worshippers vindicated the quiet but relentless efforts of the state government and the security agencies. Governor Ubasani described the kidnapping as a shock, particularly after what he had been over 2 years of sustained peace resulting from close collaboration between the Kaduna State government and security agencies to protect lives and property.
I'm happy to announce that all of them have been certified medically fit and they have all returned home and they are at home now.
He explained that following the incident on January 18, the state government immediately mobilized all relevant security formations and stakeholders with a single objective: to ensure the safe return of every victim. The governor commended President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whom he said personally monitored developments from the first day, repeatedly calling to express concern and provide leadership support.
172 out of them, as you are aware, about 83 were the people that returned about a few days ago, and 89 were the ones that were rescued only yesterday or early morning of today.
Governor Sani further lauded the Director General of the Department of State Services, Oluwatoshin Ajayi, the Nigerian Army, the police, and other security agencies for what he described as exceptional collaboration throughout the operation. Zahra Unasr, reporting for Global TV.
Let's move away from security and turn our attention to health, where the Nigerian Cancer Society says the country is witnessing an increase in cancer cases among young people with children as young as 12 years old now being diagnosed with the disease. President of the Nigeria Cancer Society, Professor Abidemi Omonisi, revealed this in an exclusive interview with Global Television. Health correspondent Zara Unasir reports.
Professor Abidemi Omonisi stated that the reviewed data from cancer registries across the country shows an increase of colorectal cancer among teenagers, which is usually common in adults. Omonisi further mentioned that blood and breast cancers are on the rise among young people, decrying the lack of attention to blood cancers and survivors of the condition.
Younger population are coming down with cancer, particularly cancer of the colon and cancer of the breast. Many years ago, about 10 years ago, somebody have cancer, you can almost predict the age that fellow will be 50 and above. But the situation have really changed because we have 25, 30, even 12 year-old lady having breast cancer. The answer to that is that the younger ones are more exposed to, they are getting more exposed to environmental factors. But anytime you see cancer in the young, most likely is primarily driven by genetics.
The president disclosed that more than 30 states across the country have no cancer control plans, leaving millions of Nigerians without access to diagnostic facilities or treatment centers.
So again, you also need to have a plan, cancer control plan. Just yesterday, the Honorable Minister of State for Health launched the 2026 to 2030 National Cancer Control Plan. So we are part of the committee that actually drafted that plan, and also part of that review the plan. So we're part of cancer policy. In fact, there is no cancer policy in Nigeria, and the Nigerian Cancer Society is not part of the drafting. Of course, us as cancer advocates, advocacy is very important. We do a lot of community advocacy. That's why you see every World Cancer Day, you see people all over the state, like yesterday, all over Nigeria. In all the states in Nigeria, you see people, doing cancer work and creating awareness.
He appealed to the federal government to double effort in supporting cancer survivors across the country, as they are still on medication and the drugs imported to the country are expensive. Zahra Unasr, reporting for Global TV.
You're watching the live broadcast of the AM News. The AM News continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign, and sports stories. On the other side of this break, please stay with us.
How hot is it going to be as we head into Saturday? Let's break it down. Temperatures remain generally high across the country, and yes, the heat is on. Yelwa in Kebbi State and Nguru in Yobe are expected to peak at 41 degrees Celsius, while Yola, Borno, and Sokoto State isn't far behind at 40 degrees Celsius. Feeling the heat already? So what should you expect where you are? If you are in the northern states, it's a sunny day ahead. Across the north central and parts of the southern cities, expect a partly cloudy skies. Not totally gloomy, but definitely worth keeping an eye on. Now let's talk about the rain. We're tracking developing rain clouds over the central areas with slim chances of thunderstorms affecting parts of the Federal Capital Territory and Niger State. This could kick off late tonight and stretch into early hours of Saturday. If you are in Ogun and parts of Lagos, don't be surprised if you wake up to morning thunderstorms. And as the day goes on, especially into the afternoon, thundery activities are expected over Plateau and Kaduna State, while several other areas should prepare for rain and thunder, including Kwara, Benue, Kogi, Ogun, Oshun, Oyo, Imo, Ekiti, and all coastal cities. So here's the big question. Sun or rain where you are? Whichever it is, stay hydrated, stay alert, and stay weather ready.
In business, the President Bola Tinubu has launched Nigeria's National Halal Economy Strategy, a policy initiative aimed at positioning the country to tap into the $7.7 trillion global halal market and accelerate economic diversification. The president was represented at the launch by Vice President Kashim Shettima to unveil the initiative at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The policy is expected to add an estimated $1.5 billion to Nigeria's gross domestic product in 2027. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission says the long-awaited review of Nigeria's revenue allocation formula is nearing completion following months of consultations and data analysis. Now, this came as lawmakers scrutinized the 2026 budget proposal of key government agencies during a budget defense at the National Assembly. Our correspondent Anita Patrick reports.
Appearing before the House of Representatives Committee on Finance, Chairman of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, Dr. Mohammed Shehu, told lawmakers the commission had concluded its review of the remuneration of political office holders. He said the recommendations have been forwarded to the President through the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Dr. Shehu also disclosed that work on the vertical and horizontal revenue sharing formula is ongoing, with completion expected before the end of the year.
Remuneration of political office holders is completed. We have submitted through the SGF to Mr. President. We hope that very soon this thing will be transmitted to you so that it becomes law.
Meanwhile, the acting managing director of the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, MBET, Johnson Akinawu, attributed challenges in the company's 2025 budget implementation to low capital releases. But members of the committee raised concerns over MBET's spending priorities.
Every and all travels that you see that was funded there had either an SGF or head of service approval as required.
Out of 479 million naira, you spent 470 million for international travels. Why I'm worried about this expenditure is that you neglected the comfort of your residential building as against your international travel.
In a related presentation, the Federal Ministry of Finance proposed 14.3 billion naira 2026 budget also came under scrutiny over alleged inconsistency in its capital component. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, explained that the figure includes debt service items classified as capital expenditure by the Budget Office.
By Budget Office, they captured debt servicing under that particular heading. So we would have to trace back as to why. So it is not part of our normal capital budget. It is actually debt servicing.
We're talking about revenue. We want to know the sources, what made up that revenue, and what as against what targets.
The House Committee on Finance subsequently directed the ministry to return with its complete 2025 budget performance report before consideration of the 2026 proposal. From the National Assembly, Anita Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
Still talking business, Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris says President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms are stabilizing Nigeria's economy, restoring confidence and putting the country on a sustainable growth after many years of uncertainty. The minister stated this in an interview with newsmen in Abuja. He stated that the removal of fuel subsidy and the unification of the foreign exchange rate were a deliberate decision taken early in the administration to fix deep structural problems that threatened the country's economic survival. And now to the foreign scene. Canada is set to open its first diplomatic outpost in Greenland in a significant show of solidarity following United States President Donald Trump's threat to take control of the country. Delegation of senior Canadian officials, including Governor General Mary Simon and Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand, are traveling to Greenland today to formally open Canada's consulate, accompanied by a Canadian Coast Guard ship. Now, ahead of the trip, Simon said in a speech that Canada stands firmly in support of the people of Greenland who will determine their own future. And now to sport. The National Sports Commission has formally confirmed the establishment of the Nigeria Federation of American Football as the official governing body for the sport in Nigeria, ending a prolonged period of leadership disputes and uncertainty. The Commission says the Federation's board will be inaugurated on Tuesday, February 10th at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja, following a reconciliation process led by the NSC Director General Bukola Olokbade to unify stakeholders and restore confidence. Babajide Akeredolu will serve as president of the federation, with officials saying the commission will support grassroots development and international participation as Nigeria prepares for the future continental and global football competitions. Still talking sports, the Nigeria Boxing Federation will conduct a national open trial for the selection of boxers to represent Nigeria at the forthcoming Commonwealth Games from March 1st to 6th at the Brai Ayanodot Boxing Stadium, National Stadium in Lagos. In a letter of notification and invitation addressed to all federations affiliate and signed by Secretary General Vivian Azimene, the Federation said the trial are open to all national boxers within Nigeria and the diaspora, including affiliated clubs, states, and associations. The objective of the trial is to ensure a transparent and merit-based selection of best boxers to represent Nigeria at the Commonwealth Games. That's it on the AM News. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all our social media platforms now displayed on your screen using our Global TV NJ. I am Mukhtar Kasim. Saying a very big thank you for watching.